This is Corella again from Welcome.com, Wilcone. And if you remember from the last video, I was talking about concepts, which are some of the hardest things to teach when you're going from one language to the other. Vocabulary, not so much, but concepts are hard. One of the hardest concepts, I shouldn't say hard because that's already closing you down and saying, I can't do this, I can't do this. No. One of the hardest, the most complex, somewhat complicated, but not impossible concept to understand and to grasp are accents. Accents can be complex, especially for an English speaker, because we're not used to them. We have words with accents, like we have resume, right? Resume, and that can somewhat distinguish between resume, okay? And we might have, for example, this is not an accent, but it's like a marking facade, and under the C we have the S. But really, we don't put it, nobody's going to say, oh my God, you spelled it incorrectly, it's wrong. Where in Spanish and in French and in other languages, not putting the marking is wrong and can even change the meaning of a word. Now, of course, when we speak English, we do accent our words. We're just not aware of it. We might become aware of it if we learn homographs, where words that are spelled exactly the same but are pronounced differently. And then when we put the emphasis on one part of the word versus the other, but a lot of times we're not even aware that we're doing that. We do it, but we're not aware of it. Because you have to learn accents in Spanish and French and maybe in Portuguese, right? And so you have to become aware of it. So teaching accents, you're teaching a lot of things. You're teaching grammar to a certain extent. You're teaching vocabulary, most definitely. You're increasing the vocabulary of the student. But you're also teaching how someone who speaks Spanish hears their language. And that's a concept. And you're going to have to learn how to hear the same way that they do. Now, English speakers, we're used to, especially, let's say, American English speakers, but also the British, because they chew their words just like Americans chew their words, depending on your educational level, depending on a lot of different things. You have to learn how to listen to letters and learn how to listen to how they are pronounced. Let me give you some examples about accents and the different ways accents are used in Spanish. Okay, let's go to the board here. You can see I have 3 lists here. And in each list you see a word with the accent and a word without the accent. And all of these words all look the same. Now for an English speaker, the accents wouldn't mean anything. Right? That's not how we distinguish between what words mean. But to a Spanish speaker, they could immediately tell you that, number one, at least in this list, not so much in this list, but definitely in this list, that accent is extremely important. And here the accent is both grammatical as well as the way you hear a word. Okay, so let's just go to it. Here you have the word tu y tu, de y de, se y se. If you notice, I'm not pronouncing the words differently. They're pronounced exactly the same. Number one, you can't. What are you going to pronounce differently? Because these are one-syllable words. But the accent here is used to distinguish one word from the other. So the tu without the accent is your, which is a possessive adjective. The tu with the accent is you. Subject pronoun, you. So I could say, tú tienes tu coche, okay? So the tu, when it says you have your car, so tú tienes tu coche. This tu is distinguished from this tu, not so much, no, most definitely, not in the way it's pronounced, but The accent tells you here, this is you, which is the subject pronoun, second person singular, and in Spanish informal. And the tu here is the possessive adjective, informal, for your. Okay. The same thing with day y day. This is the pretérito, or the simple past for the verb dar. And this is depending of or from. It can even have other meanings. The same thing here, say y say. This is I know. And this say has a lot of different meanings. Oh my goodness. It has a lot of different meanings. But it's not the one that means I know. Let's go over to the second column. Here we have accents also. The accents here play a different role. This accent, the one with the accent, that's easy enough to explain. When you have question words such as which, what, how, and they're in questions or they're in exclamation marks, that's when you put the accent. Okay? The accent is over the E. Como, the accent is over the first O. And donde, the accent is over the first O. No, excuse me, there's only one O. The accent is over the O. When a student sees this of Spanish, or when a Spanish speaker sees this, they know automatically you're talking about a question. But you can also write, okay, when you're not talking about a question, but you're using the word que, meaning either that or meaning what, but not what in the sense of a question. Como has two different meanings. Como could mean how, but not how in a question. This is how you do it. You see how there is not in a question. It's como lo haces, but it's not in a question. And como can also be I eat. Como, todos los días. Okay. Donde can be in a question. Donde vives? Oh, you know what I forgot to do here, and I didn't realize it. I forgot to put the question here, question mark here. This is, when it says donde vives, this is where do you live? I'm asking a question. But if I say this is where I live, is donde vivo, right? Then that donde is not a question, and there's no question mark. I mean, there's no accent. So here, you're using the accent to distinguish when a word, when what, how, and where is in a question versus when it's in a declarative sentence. Now, crossing over a little bit, the concept gets a little bit harder, because I don't think this is hard to understand, the do and the do and the day and the day and the say and the say. I think if you maybe a couple times mentioning que, como, donde, that's not difficult. Now here is requiring you to listen, to hear something that you're not used to listening for or hearing. The H-A-B-L-O here and the H-L-A-B-L-O, there are two reasons for this. But the basic reason is that they're pronounced differently. So this is hablo español, hablo inglés, hablo francés. But the accent here is, this is the present indicative, I speak French, English, German, whatever, right? The accent, the accent here over the O, number one, this is I, and this is present indicative. This is he, she, and in Spanish, usted, formal you. And this is the pretérito, or what we normally say is a simple past tense, spoke or talked. Right? And it's not hablo, it's habló. Can you hear it? Habló. This is hablo, and this is habló. Oh, where the emphasis is here. We're going to look at the rules for accents in a second. Here, this is bebe. This is él, ella, usted, and it's a presente indicativo. This is the present indicative, right? So he, she, it drinks, whatever, Coca-Cola, leche, agua, you know, Coors, okay, cerveza. And this is bebé. So this is baby, and this is bebé. And bebé is not baby. And you can hear the difference. Bebé is baby. I don't need to capitalize that. It's baby. Right? There's a fourth reason. I think I'm going to just do a video on that fourth reason by itself. Let me just tell you really quickly because my time is coming to an end. When you teach accents, you have to teach sound and you have to teach stress. You also have to teach vowels. That in Spanish you have A, E, O, U. But this E and this U, you got to get those. So in our next video, we're going to talk about the rules of accents. And we'll also, if we have time, if not, we'll do it in the following video. We're going to talk about that fourth list that's not here. Okay? And of course, there's always exceptions to the rule. So, once again, this is Coralla Fickler McLean at welcome, WYLCOME.com. We're talking about concepts of language. We're talking about that stool. But since we're talking about vocabulary also, we're talking about structure too. We've been talking about a little bit of culture and history. Because when you look at the two, how do you use two and why is there two? Why is there two and why is there instead? All these different things. But you got to get them all. Because if you don't get one, you get only three and you don't get the fourth one, then your language, you can't speak the language as well as you should be able to speak the language. You probably don't always have an accent, right? The Brits have an accent to me when they speak English, so that's no big deal. So once again, Coralla Fickler McLean, welcome, WYLCOME.com. Thank you very much.